What's going on, Orange Nation? This is Neil Adler with another episode of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Happy Monday. How was everyone's weekend? I got to watch some games, no stress of watching Syracuse, hung out with my brother, my nephews. All is well. It was fun. It was fun. So hope you had a good weekend. Let me know what you're up to. And happy Monday. Hope you have a great week this week. We're going to get back into some Syracuse football because it's game week. Syracuse was on a bye this past weekend, but now Pittsburgh comes to the Dome on Saturday night, and Pittsburgh is an 11.5 point favorite. Say what? I'll tell you, I don't, and I'm not giving betting advice here, and I don't understand odds really at all. And but I went on FanDuel on Sunday in preparation for doing the show, and I was just like, what? So Pittsburgh comes in, they're playing pretty well. They beat Boston College 2 weekends ago. They crushed them 48-7. That was at home. And Boston College stinks, so I'll give you that. But then this past weekend they went to Tallahassee and beat then number 25 Florida State, which is a struggling team right now, but they beat them 34-31. So Pittsburgh's 4-2. Their true freshman quarterback started the last two games. I'm going to butcher his name. Sorry, dude. Mason Heitschel. And on the season, he's got 680 passing yards with six touchdowns and two picks. But just looking at the numbers here, yeah, he's got over 320 yards in each of the last two games. So he's good. I'm sure that will lead some Syracuse fans to say, "Ah, start Luke Carney then." Um, but again, Pittsburgh's 4-2, longtime opponent of Syracuse, crushed Syracuse last year. That was the game where Kyle McCord had five picks, including three pick six. I mean, that's just an anomaly. He obviously had a great year. Um, but again, Pittsburgh's coming in. They're playing pretty well. Syracuse off a bye week, lost two straight. Got crushed at home by Duke, and then lost at SMU. And they've got to sort out the defense, get that consistent. They got to stabilize quarterback play. They got to win in the turnover department. So they've had a lot to work on. Hopefully, they've had some good practices and will continue. But still, a 3-3 team playing a 4-2 team, with the 3-3 team being at home, and they're an 11.5 point underdog at home. Wow. Do y'all think that's like reasonable? Again, I don't really care. I'm just talking about it because I don't know. I like to talk about things. But just 11.5, really? Huh? I don't know. Do you think Syracuse? I'm not going to give a score prediction today, but you think Syracuse will cover that spread? It's a lot. It's a lot. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, moving on. Speaking of quarterback play, um, I think some of you know that I cover Syracuse and some other sports for various other places digitally, and obviously have the show here, the podcast, but um, where I cover Syracuse sports digitally for Inside the Loud House, where I'm the editor. I put something out there like late last week. I don't remember what day it was, but it was basically just asking other fans if they thought that Syracuse football should make a quarterback change this week, given that Ricky has struggled, Ricky Collins, the redshirt sophomore from LSU. But I don't know. The responses were, definitely ran the gamut, and some people are like, well, he struggled. What do they have to lose putting either the true freshman Luke Carney in or the redshirt freshman Jakari Williams? Yeah, give them a shot. See what they can do. Well, in the case of Carney, I don't know if Syracuse football is trying to preserve his red shirt. I don't know. But I will say this. And then others are saying, well, let's give Collins more time. He got thrust into the situation, and he was the starter in the spring before Steve Angeli transferred. And obviously, Angeli got injured in the Clemson game, which is really sucks. But and now it's Collins' team, and like what my main point would be is that if the Syracuse football staff felt that Luke Carney or Jakari Williams was ready, 2 points, ready to go in, and also more importantly, give Syracuse a better chance to win than Ricky Collins, then I think one of those guys would be in right now. I do, regardless of red shirts and all this other stuff. Collins is a redshirt sophomore. He's entering his third year. He went to LSU. He was a four-star. He looked was mentored by Jane Daniels, who's now in the pros and won a Heisman, and Garrett Nussmeier, who's a pretty good college quarterback. But again, he's in his third year, and Carney's been on campus, or he's been, officially in college as a football player for what, a month plus. So I don't know. I personally feel like give Ricky a little bit more time. He's he's obviously got to get more consistent in terms of, well, he's got to cut down on turnovers, whether it's picks or fumbles. He's got to not stare down his receivers. He's got to make better decisions, quicker decisions, spread the ball around. But I still think he's got a pretty good arm. And I'm not saying Luke Carney or Jakari Williams don't, but I just feel like, let's see how he does against Pitt. The Duke game was a disaster, but like the defense was a disaster. It was just a bad game. And then at SMU, they scored some late to make it more respectable, and it was on the road against a team that's 4-2. So let's see let's see how Ricky Collins does at home versus another 4-2 team. Let's see how that goes. And honestly, after that, if he really struggles but the defense is better and it's just the quarterback play, I hate to ever blame one person, but if that's the main reason why they lost, if they lose, then yeah, maybe you think about it. But I don't know. It's just they're 3-3. Give them a shot. Give them a shot. That's my opinion. But let me know what you think. Certainly, people have very strong opinions on both sides of this. And I got nothing against Luke Carney or Jakari Williams. Luke Carney, he won multiple state titles in Texas. He played for prep school in the Dallas area. He threw for like over 10,000 yards in his prep career. And that dude can play, obviously, but he's a true freshman. Then again, Pittsburgh's playing a true freshman right now, so yeah. All right, we're gonna move on. Okay, so I'm sure most of you saw the news on Sunday about, well, Oregon State fired their head coach, but then Penn State fired James Franklin. And probably some people in Syracuse land are like happy about this because Trevor Pena transferred there, so they like want him to stink and they want Penn State to stink. And they used to be rivals back in the day. I don't, I'm not into any of that crap. Like I just root for my guys. I don't hate on anyone else, but that's just me. Um, but amid Franklin getting fired, we're seeing some 20, whether 2026, 2027, we're seeing guys maybe decommit. And there's a bunch of guys out there that were in the 2026 or 2027 classes for Penn State that held Syracuse offers. And some of them, I think, have either unofficially, I don't think officially, but unofficially visited. So it's something to keep an eye on. And I'm not saying that Syracuse is reaching out to these guys, but we want to keep an eye on it. But one guy they obviously have reached out to, um, is Khalil Taylor, the 2027 four-star wide receiver out of Pine Richland High School in Gibsonia, Pennsylvania, because reports said that he's visiting Syracuse and will be at the Dome for the Pittsburgh game on this Saturday, the 18th. So, that's interesting. But then keep an eye on maybe some of these 2026 and 2027 guys who did have Syracuse offers. One is three-star defensive back Julian Peterson of Winslow Township High School in Attica, New Jersey. And New Jersey, along with some of these other players, their schools are all key recruiting markets for Syracuse as well. Obviously, New Jersey is huge with Fran Brown, Elijah Robinson, Nunzio Campanelli, all from there. So three-star defensive back or defensive lineman Alexander Haskell of St. Joseph Prep in Philly. That's where Kyle McCord went. Three-star defensive lineman Tavian Branch first at high school in Taylor, Pennsylvania. A couple of four-star linebacker Terry Wiggins of Coatesville Area Senior High School in Coatesville, PA. Pretty sure Wiggins was supposed to officially visit in June, but didn't end up making it. I think he's unofficially visited. Don't quote me on it, but I think he has. And then four-star wide receiver Davion Brown at Trinity Episcopal School in Richmond, Virginia. I don't know. We'll see about that. I mean, Syracuse obviously has Calvin Russell and multiple other, and then Amari Goff, who's also from Richmond, and then several others, wide receivers in the 2026 class. So we'll see. But Brown did have Syracuse in like his top 5 or his top 10, like back in the day. So, and he was supposed to visit, I think, at one point. Something to keep in mind. And then in 2027, besides Taylor, their whole, I think pretty much their whole 2027 class, I think I had 4 commits. They all decommitted, whether Taylor was like late last week and then these other guys were Sunday. So keep an eye on maybe Syracuse reaches out to some of these dudes. 5-star running back Kemen Spell of McKeesport Area Senior High School in McKeesport, PA. That's near Pittsburgh. Five-star offensive tackle Leighton Von Brandt. I'm going to butcher the name of his high school. Appoquinimink High School in Middletown, Delaware. Syracuse has recruited Delaware well of late. And then four-star linebacker Gabe Jenkins of the Imani Christian Academy of Pittsburgh. That's Imani Christian is a well-known prep school in that area. Syracuse, I'm pretty sure, has recruited other guys there in both basketball and football. So we'll see if Syracuse reaches out to these guys. I mean, Syracuse has 29 verbal pledges in 2026 in a class that's ranked 26 by 24/7 Sports Composite. And then in 2027, they have six verbal pledges. The class is number four overall per the composite. Maybe Syracuse reaches out. I sincerely doubt that if Trevor Pena goes into the portal, because Penn State players, can't they? Once there's a head coaching change, they have a certain amount of time to go into the portal. Although actually the NCAA is changing that, where they have to wait till a replacement is announced. Although Penn State did announce a replacement, I think the interim coach, I can't remember who he was because it's not important to me, but they did announce that on Sunday. So yeah, we'll see if guys go into the portal, but I can't imagine that if Pena went into the portal, and I wish him well, whatever. Guys transfer in and out of Syracuse, guys transfer from other schools to Syracuse, whatever. Can't imagine he would go to Syracuse though. Not after the way kind of things left, and it's kind of, I don't want to say ugly, but just kind of eh. So, but speaking of Penn State, so I'll wrap it up here. So, as you know, the news came out on Sunday about Penn State firing James Franklin. I was looking around at different articles from analysts or whatever, national writers, was curious who might be some candidates, and this is all speculative at this point, but could be like potential candidates for the opening at Penn State. And one article from USA Today, I think listed nine guys. They mentioned Fran Brown. They mentioned Fran Brown. I mean, I guess. I mean, Fran obviously, look, Fran Brown I think is garnering a lot of respect nationally in the way he's building this program. And he's a good guy, no nonsense, but a good guy, keeps it real. Recruits obviously love him, their families love him. People want to play for him. They were 10-3 last year, number 20 in the country. They were 3-1 before. Well, they were 3-1, and that included the win over Clemson, but that's the game. And Jelly got hurt out for the season. But so, he's 13-6 overall. Did I get that right? Yeah. And again, he's a hot commodity, so to speak, but really, I don't know. I mean, then again, sometimes, these schools, big Power Four schools, they hire a guy that's never been a head coach before, and he is a head coach. But he also, when hired by Syracuse, he wasn't even a defensive coordinator offense. He didn't have a coordinator job. But he also had said in interviews that he intentionally did that because he didn't want to he wanted as a defensive backs coach he could be involved with different a lot more stuff I guess versus being a coordinator on one side of the field. Okay. And will Penn State only look at guys with tremendous amounts of head coaching experience or coordinators or whatever? We'll see. But I thought that was interesting. Penn State's a big job. I mean, that's Big Ten land. That's a big job. They were in the playoff last year. Obviously, they're not going to make it this year, and they stink right now. But um, you know, look, Fran's from Camden, New Jersey. He knows the Northeast Corridor very well. I could see him being appealing to a school like Penn State. I mean, does part of it depend on how Syracuse finishes up this year? I think at this point, given um, and Jelly's out, and the schedule and whatnot. Even if they're a 6-6 and win a bowl game, let's say they go 7-6, that's like a pretty good coaching job. So yeah, he might be a hot commodity for some of these open positions. Now the other question is would he be interested in any of them? He said he wants to be at Syracuse for life, or what was the quote? At his press conference, I'm staying here forever, or whatever. I think he loves it up there, but if Penn State comes calling, or one of the big SEC schools, most recently was the defensive backs coach of Georgia. You're telling me he's not going to think about that? Arkansas is open. Um, Auburn, if Hugh Freeze doesn't get it done, that could be open. Florida with Billy Napier. Could you blame him? I mean, it would suck if he left after 2 years, but we'll see. I'm not saying it as a candidate for Penn State, but I thought it was interesting that USA Today piece noted him as someone that Penn State should look at. They weren't even framing it that he's a candidate because you don't know that right now anyway for most guys, but they were framing it Penn State should look at. All right. All right, that'll do it for today's episode. The coaching carousel in college football is going to be pretty wild this offseason. But yeah, so I'm Neil Adler with Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Let me know what you want to see this coming week and into the future and how terrible I am or amazing I am or somewhere in between. But I do appreciate the support. Um, if you like this episode, hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. I'll be doing Syracuse football, basketball, and recruiting intel on both sports from day to day. And I really appreciate you all. Have a great rest of your Monday. I will talk to you again on Tuesday, friends. Take care.